Welcome to another mentoring moment with Dr. Mo. I'm Dr. Mo, and in this mentoring moment, we will elevate and enhance your tapping practice by taking a deep dive into the nervous system and how that is related to sensory aspects. So have you ever wondered about why clinical EFT focuses so much energy on sensory aspects while tapping? The reason why aspects are such a huge part of clinical EFT is because of the relationship that exists between the body's nervous system and its ability to receive sensory experiences or sensory aspects. So we're just going to jump into a little bit of background, and I'm going to begin by talking about the body's nervous system and how that is divided into two main divisions, one being the central nervous system and the other being the peripheral nervous system. So the central nervous system is composed of the brain and the spinal cord. And everything else beyond the brain and the spinal cord, which is like nerves or neural receptors on your skin or in your sensory organs, that is all associated with the peripheral nervous system. So essentially, the peripheral nervous system is exactly what it sounds like. This part of the nervous system is on the periphery and very much has the ability to interact with the outside world and all of the sensory experiences that come from the outside world, including the sights, the smells, the sounds, the tastes, those physical sensations, temperature changes on your skin, and even proprioceptive awareness, which essentially means your ability to know where your body is in space at any given moment. So as you can see, the information that the peripheral nervous system is receiving and is interpreting constantly is essentially sensory aspects, right? It's the sensory aspects that clinical EFT focuses on and taps on. So just as a quick little review, in EFT, the 5 main sensory aspects are defined as being physical experiences or kinesthetic aspects, taste, gustatory aspects, things you hear, auditory aspects, things you smell, olfactory aspects, and things you see, visual aspects. Okay, so in addition to this, you can see the importance of the peripheral nervous system in EFT in the divisions of the nervous system. So the peripheral nervous system further divides into the autonomic nervous system, and that autonomic nervous system, it can be further divided into the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So by looking at these divisions that exist within the nervous system, you can see that as a way of accessing the sympathetic nervous system, you can use the peripheral nervous system as a way to do that. So I'm not meaning to kind of overwhelm you by presenting this very anatomical and physiological kind of division of the nervous system, but it's meant to show you that the relationship that exists between the peripheral nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system, because after all, EFT is a stress management tool that is used to sedate the nervous system and increase parasympathetic tone. So as a way of accessing the sympathetic nervous system, you can harness the peripheral nervous system and the sensory aspects that the peripheral nervous system is in charge of as a way of sedating the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, so I can hear some of you wondering, Dr. Mo, what about emotions and thought aspects? Those are aspects as well, right? And you do have a point. They very much are aspects that clinical EFT focuses on. But, one can make the argument that these aspects have their true roots in sensory aspects, meaning that the 5 senses are actually a catalyst or a foundation for the creation of emotions and thought aspects. I personally call this phenomenon enmeshed aspects or primary secondary aspects. I haven't really decided on a name, but I have those two contenders. And so in this video, I will mainly be focusing on the 5 sensory aspects, and we'll devote an entirely new video to taking a deep dive on emotions and thought aspects and all those other aspects that exist beyond the 5 senses, and how to kind of make sense of those and classify those. So stay tuned for that video. But in the meantime, let's kind of talk about the trauma capsule and how it relates to aspects. So trauma, whether it is big or little t, has a freezing effect on neural processing that within the limbic system and within the limbic lobe of the brain. There is a term that encompasses this freeze response, and it is called the trauma capsule. So this capsule is a metaphor for what happens when one's nervous system is completely overwhelmed and unable to cope with a traumatic experience. It's unable to process all of that traumatic information that it's receiving from an experience. So as a protective and very much a survival mechanism, the nervous system, encapsulates the trauma and sets it aside, it buries it deeply, and as a way of providing distance or dissociation or extreme separation from that negative thing, as a way of being able to move forward and as a way to live on. And so that's why it is called a trauma capsule. And so this trauma capsule is essentially your body's innate wisdom, your body's using the gentle techniques on itself, just to simply provide some distance so that forward movement can be achieved. Okay, so this trauma capsule is created by specific memories, specific experiences, specific events. And the interesting thing is that these events or specific memories are in and of themselves built from sensory aspects. Because when you experience something that is traumatic or very negative, you know that happened to you because of what your peripheral nervous system experienced during that time. So ultimately, aspects are the building blocks of each and every specific event or memory. Aspects are your body's awareness and how your nervous system senses information that is both positive and negative. So you can say that aspects are how we know that something has happened, something will happen, or something is currently happening to us. So to kind of drive this point home, let's give an example. So for instance, if you were in a car accident, this is a specific event. It's a specific memory and point in time. And the reason how you know that actually happened to you is because of all of the sensory experiences that you experienced from that event. For instance, what you saw, visual aspects, the glass shattering, the collision of the 2 cars, the flashing lights, what you heard, auditory aspects, maybe that you heard the impact or you heard somebody scream. Things that you tasted, gustatory aspects, so maybe you're tasting blood in your mouth or you're tasting the saltiness of the sweat that was dripping down your forehead, right? So these aspects are those building blocks that support the creation of that memory and inform you that you indeed did experience that, okay? So after traumatic experiences of any kind, whether it was big T or little t, you essentially carry the imprint of those sensory aspects from that event in your memory networks that are in that trauma capsule. And you can potentially relive parts of, that memory when anything remotely similar happens to what you experienced back then, right? This is why, for example, war veterans can be so deeply affected by fireworks or by loud noises, because their nervous system is carrying the imprint of that sensory experience of the loud noise from specific events in which they were in major danger, and their life was threatened. Okay, So this is why all this information combined, it's very important to hunt for those sensory aspects in your sessions with your clients to ensure that you and your client have completely dismantled any trauma capsule that exists. So, but the only way to be able to tap on specific aspects is to first and foremost get to specific events. So there is this beautiful connection and interplay between specific aspects and specific events. They both hinge on each other. So if you want to learn more about being able to feel confident in finding a specific event, you can watch my video on specific events and how to find them. So I really do hope that you have enjoyed this mentoring moment. I'm Dr. Mo, and we will talk and tap soon. Bye.